Hello my friends, today I'm going to talk about night city shots in twilight, from general concept and composition to the equipment you need. I've been doing this kind of photographs for a very long time, for commercial clients and in particular for my stock photo agencies. I must say that night pictures of cities outsell daylight by many times. I actually think that taking good night picture in the city is much easier than getting good, interesting and sellable daylight picture. My friend Mark asked me some time ago, how do I take these colorful and crispy night shots in the city? Since I posted my last video about night photography in Louvre, Paris, few more people asked me about it. I'm in Bordeaux, France right now. It is a beautiful city, and today I was going to shoot video on the streets of Bordeaux. But the weather changed and the skies are gray and it's going to rain soon and it'll be raining pretty much all day. Perfect time to do another tutorial. Travel photography is mostly about pictures of the famous beautiful locations around the world. This image is used for everything from travel magazines to corporate publications to advertising to TV. Let's talk first why it is easier to get beautiful night shots than daylight shots. When taking pictures in daylight, you have few very important elements to deal with, which most of the time is out of your control. Number one is weather. Pictures with gray skies, overcast lighting don't look so good and don't sell. Even a picture with clear blue skies is not ideal because blue sky looks kind of empty. Ideally, you need blue skies with these nice fluffy clouds. Number two is good lighting. It is mostly early morning or late afternoon when the light is low and creates nice, interesting three-dimensional effects. When you are in limited time schedule and it is often very difficult to be at the right location at the right time. Number three, all famous popular travel locations usually crowded. You have lots of people walking around, taking pictures, talking, eating. From a visual point of view, they can be very distracting with colors of their clothes. They can also physically block view standing in front of your camera. You won't believe how many times I was standing waiting for people to move out of my shot and didn't get it. And of course, for commercial use of the images, it is important not to have easily identifiable people in your shots. Finally, number four is everything else, from cars and traffic to overflowing trash cans and other things. Cars, trucks and buses can block the view and they might display commercial messages and symbols, which is absolutely no for any commercial use of your image. Combination of these four elements can make photography in the city in daylight really difficult, sometimes impossible. Let's talk about night photography now. Weather doesn't really matter unless it's pouring rain and snow. Even light rain is okay and can create interesting reflections on the road. Even complete overcast sky will look dark, intense blue on the picture. Lighting on the building or monument at night is artificial electric lighting, which is the same every night. People most of the time are not an issue because since you're taking pictures with long exposure ranging from few seconds to few minutes, they simply blur completely to unrecognizable ghost images. Finally, car traffic is your friend now because headlights and backlights of the car can create interesting light tracks and fill your images with color. All the other distractions like trash, graffiti and so on are not visible in the dark. In night photography in the city, most of the time you're guaranteed to get interesting, beautiful photograph. Often people ask me if these bright, intense colors in night photographs are done in post-production with increased saturation and other techniques. Actually, I'm always trying to create original image as close as possible to perfection in camera. I learned photography and worked half of my life with transparency film, where post-production adjustments were not possible. Intense colors in night images are based on color theory, where orange and blue are opposite zones of color spectrum. So yellow-orange light on the building creates very intense color contrast with blue sky. Let's talk quickly about necessary equipment. Camera, pretty much any camera will do as long as it has manual settings. Lens, I like to use zoom lenses for easy framing and composition, particularly in the limited street space. You don't really need expensive fast lenses for night photography, since you're going to use apertures like 8, 11 and above. It is important to have a correct exposure of the building. Ideally, you should start shooting when brightness of the sky is one stop below the brightness of the building. So you use your camera to measure light on the sky and on the building, and when you get this ratio, you start shooting. After that, aperture and shutter speed stays the same. And you get different images because sky will get darker and darker. And personally, I don't take pictures of the cities at night with completely black sky because it doesn't look pretty. Depending on the subject, I use shutter speeds between 4 seconds and 30 seconds. Night photography in twilight has very limited time window, usually about 30-40 minutes before it gets completely dark. So few minutes exposures don't really work for me unless I have some special idea. Also, most cameras have built-in shutter speeds up to 30 seconds. Beyond that, you will need remote release with timer. It is important to keep your camera steady, so I use 2 seconds or even 10 seconds self-timer to activate the camera. I also deactivate autofocus and image stabilization, and I shoot in RAW format to have more flexibility in the post, and I use ISO 100. Very important part of the night long exposure photography is camera support. This pretty much can be anything as long as camera doesn't move. I used mailboxes with coins on this lens to stabilize my camera. This is not ideal, but can be done. However, let's talk about serious solutions. My first item is table pot. This thing is tiny, doesn't look like much, but can really save you on the field. I'm trying to carry one with me at all times. It is useful for getting low-angle photographs and videos by putting it on the ground. You can also put it on the table in the street cafe and do stealth photography and video and time lapses. And of course, you can use it for long exposure night photography by putting it on stable, solid structure on the street. One other important use of table pot is in the areas where security and police will not allow you to use full-size tripod. I had many situations in Paris, London, Moscow, Rome, where I was told not to use tripod, but security didn't mind tiny table pot. Finally, let's talk about tripod. It is important to have tripod capable of keeping your biggest camera with a lens stable. My second consideration is weight. Weight is a paramount in my selection of any equipment because of the travel. I also use ball tripod heads for photography for easy positioning and leveling the camera. If it is windy or your tripod is a little unsteady for any reason, you can always stabilize it by hanging your camera bag on it. Since you have very limited time to take pictures in twilight, advanced planning is very important. Come to the location at sunset, you will have a chance to get some nice sunset shots and also mark composition for the night shot. Usually it is very difficult to do 2 locations in one night, so I like to take pictures of the same building or monument with different framing, different angles and positions. That's it for today. Feel free to ask questions and leave comments. Until next time.